Son, we need to have a chat about internet safety. I slowly crumpled down to the floor next to him. His laptop was open and he was playing Minecraft on a public server. His eyes were locked into the action. Comments scrolled down the side of the screen in a chat box. Son, can you stop your game for a minute? He exited the world, closed the laptop, and looked up at me. Dad, this is gonna be another cheesy, scary story. What? I faked my feelings getting hurt for a second and then grinned at him. I thought you liked my cautionary tales. He grew up listening to my stories about children who encountered witches, ghosts, werewolves, and trolls, like many other generations of parents. I use scary stories to reinforce morals and teach lessons about safety. Single dads like me should use all the parenting tools at their disposal. He scrunched his little face. They were fine when I was 6, but now that I'm getting older, they don't really scare me anymore. They seem kinda silly. If you're going to tell a story about the internet, can you make it really, really scary? I squinted at him incuriously. He folded his arms. Dad, I'm 10. I can handle it. Okay, I'll try. I began with, once upon a time, there was a boy named Colby. His expression indicated that he wasn't impressed with the terror of the introduction. He simply sighed and settled in for one of Dad's cheesy stories. I continued. Colby went online and joined several children's websites. After a while, he started talking to other kids in-game and on message boards. He made friends with another 10-year-old boy named Helper23. They liked the same video games and TV shows, they laughed at each other's jokes, and they even explored new games together. After several months of the friendship, Colby gave Helper23 6 diamonds in a game that they were playing. This was a very generous gift. Colby's birthday was coming up and Helper23 wanted to send him a cool present in real life. Colby figured it wouldn't hurt to give Helper23 his home address, as long as he promised not to tell any strangers or grown-ups. Helper23 swore he wouldn't tell anyone else, not even his own parents, and set about mailing the package. I paused the story and asked my son, "Do you think that was a good idea?" "No," he said, shaking his head vigorously. In spite of myself, he was getting into the story. Well, neither did Colby. Colby felt guilty about giving away his home address, and his guilt was beginning to grow and grow. By the next time he put on his pajamas for the next night, his guilt and fear were larger than anything else in his life. He resolved to tell his parents the truth. The punishment would definitely be steep, but it was worth it to have a clear conscience. He squirmed in his little bed and waited for his parents to tuck him in. My son knew the scary part was coming up. In spite of his tough talk, he leaned forward wide-eyed. I spoke clearly and deliberately. He heard all the noises of the house. The washing machine bounced around in the laundry room. Branches scraped against the brick outside of his room. His baby brother cooed in the nursery. And there was some other noises he couldn't quite pinpoint. Finally, his dad's footsteps echoed down the hall. "Hey, Dad," he called out nervously. "I have something to tell you." His dad stuck his head in the doorway at a weird angle. In the darkness, his mouth didn't seem to move, and his eyes were all wrong. "Yes, son?" The voice was way off, too. "Are you okay, Dad?" the boy asked. "Uh-huh," sung the father in his strangely affected voice. Colby pulled up his blankets in defense. Is Mom around?" "Here I am." Mom's head popped into the doorway below Dad's. Her voice was unnatural falsetto. "Were you about to tell us that you gave our home address to Helper23? You shouldn't have done that. We told you never to give out personal information over the internet," she continued. "He really wasn't a kid. He just pretended to be one. Did you know what he did? He came to our house, broken, murdered us both, just so he could spend time with you." A fat man in a wet jacket emerged into the child's doorway, holding 2 severed heads. Colby shrieked and gasped as the man dropped the heads on the ground, unshielding his knife, and moved into the room to work on the boy. My son screamed too. He twisted his hands defensively over his face, but we were just getting started with the story. After several hours, the boy was almost dead. His screams had become whimpers. The killer noticed that there was a wailing baby in the other room, removed his knife from Colby. This was a special treat. He had never murdered a baby before and was excited about the prospect. Helper23 left Colby to die and followed the cries throughout the house like a homing beacon. In the nursery, He walked to the crib, picked up the baby, and held it in his arms. He moved towards the changing table to get a better look, but as he held the baby, the crying died down. The baby looked up and smiled. Helper 23 had never held a baby, but he gently bounced it in his arms like a pro. He wiped his bloody hands on the blanket so he could stroke the guy's cheek. "Hey there, little guy." The beautiful rage of sadism melted into something warmer and softer. He walked out of the nursery, took the baby home, named him William, and raised him as his very own. After I finished my story, my son was visibly shaken. Between ragged staccato breaths, he stammered, "But Dad, my name's William." I gave him a classic dad wink and tousled his hair. "Of course it is, son." William ran upstairs in his bedroom in a fury of sobs. But deep down, I think he liked the story.